And whoever I was talking to, communicating with, I believe God, maybe Jesus, it was just like, you just knew. You didn't have to say nothing. It was just like, you knew. So I'm now in the blood. I touch it and I like look up at him and he's just staring like he couldn't believe I was moving. Hello, I'm Angela. I'm a mom. I'm a student of psychology and I'm a near-death experience survivor. My story really starts in 2008. I was in a really bad relationship. I was young. You think people in bad relationships are stupid or, things like that. I'm far from all of that, so I already start breaking some of the molds of what you think somebody who gets into an abusive relationship. I was just young, had some things to figure out, and was stuck in this cycle. I did have a child already, not with the man who I was in this relationship with. And we had gone through a lot of things. So I was going back and forth between my mom's house and his house. And this particular night, I took my daughter with me, which I didn't always do. And I remember she had fallen asleep. I put my keys in her shoe because he would like to do things like not let me leave, things like that. So I was like, well, he won't be able to find the keys, or it'll give me some time if I need to leave. So he had in his car, like we could watch videos, like movies and stuff. And I'll never forget the movie. It was Step Brothers. I still have not watched that movie to this day, and people quote it all the time. And it just kind of triggers me a little bit because I remember what happened after that. And yeah, I wasn't a big drinker. I did smoke marijuana, but I didn't do any other drugs at that time. And he was drinking. He got a phone call, and I heard it was a girl. So it was like, all right, like, you want to go do your thing, go ahead. Like, I'm gonna go home. And that's kind of like where the argument started. It was like, no, he didn't want me to leave. It was like a control thing. I later found out that he did harder drugs, so maybe he even just wanted to go pick up and come back. Whatever it was, I was already 1 foot out of this relationship anyway. And, this was kind of like gonna seal the deal. Like, okay, we came to talk today. It didn't work, whatever. So we start arguing. I go into the house to get obviously my daughter and my keys, and he starts following me in the house. His grandparents, he did live with his grandparents, so they were downstairs. They were definitely older, so they didn't really get involved too much in day to day. Just, did you guys eat today? Things like that. How are you doing? And that was kind of it. So yeah, I started heading up the stairs. When you walked in the door, it was like a porch. The door, the stairs were right there, so you could go upstairs or you could go into the rest of the house. And once you got to the top of the stairs, it was like a landing, a bathroom, a bedroom where my daughter was sleeping, and then there was another bedroom to the back of that. And so this was 2008. So cell phones, like, we had them, but they they weren't like, they were expensive, so it wasn't something I always had on or used all the time. I don't even think that my cell phone, for whatever reason, I didn't have a cell phone that day. It wasn't either working. I didn't have it on me, but there was a phone in the back room that will come in later. So, I'm starting to get my stuff together, and he's like arguing with me, and I'm just kind of like, dude, just go do what you want to do. Like, just let me leave, you go. And it just escalated from there. And I'm trying to get into the room. He's blocking the room. My daughter's in there sleeping. And that's when he pulled the gun out the drawer. And now, like, I'm mad that, like, you just pulled a gun out on me. It was like the conversation went from like what we were arguing to me feeling disrespected. And most people would shut their mouth at that point, maybe. I don't know, but I didn't. And I just said something else. I don't really remember what I said. And he was like, yeah, you want to get tough? and you could see this little thing right here. I pulled my head away, and it was like I heard the bang, but I didn't really know. And then I just was like, it was just dark. It was just dark. But there was like a little bit of a light source. And I remember like, damn, what just happened? Like, I was like, all right, I'm thinking, so I must still be alive. Like, I'm trying to figure out, did I die? Am I dead? Did I get shot? What happened here? Right. So, like, all these things are going through my mind, but I'm not like scared. I'm not like sad. It was like very peaceful and just kind of like, just like you just knew, like you were like you're like okay, but something's different. And it wasn't I was in like a body, but it was still me. Like it was like my thoughts. It was still me. And I'm just kind of like what is this, right? And then it felt like there was somebody else there with me. Like you just know you're not alone. And it started just flashing like my friends, my family, just click, 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 like you hear in the movies. And I remember thinking, like, if I die, like nobody is gonna know what happened to me. Like they're not gonna know the true story. Like all these thoughts are going through my head in this place. And I was just like, nah, I started laughing and I'm like, nah, I can't go out like that. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's not how I'm gonna go out. And I was just like, no, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I got more to do. And I woke up and I was on the floor and there was like blood everywhere, like the goopy kind of blood because I touched it to just be like, okay, I'm back. Whatever just happened, I'm back. Because it's like you wake up in the morning, like you know you were asleep and now you're awake, but you don't remember that whole waking up process. You're just like, okay, now I'm awake. That's exactly what it was like. And even when I was back communicating, it was all just like a mental communication. Whoever I was talking to, communicating with, I believe God, maybe Jesus. It was just like, you just knew. You didn't have to say nothing. It was just like, you knew. So I'm now in the blood. I touch it and I like look up at him and he's just staring like he couldn't believe I was moving. I don't know how long I was laying there for. I don't know how long that happened. I don't know. And I could hear his grandmom screaming and he just kind of panicked and I'm just like, okay, what do I do now, right? So he runs down the steps. I'm in the landing in front of the bathroom and I'm like, okay, there's a phone in the back. So my daughter slept through this whole thing too, mind you. She's asleep in the bed. So I run through that room into the back room and the phone had like a wire in it and like you had to mess with it to get the dial tone. So I'm sitting there messing with the wire to get the dial tone and I hit 9-1 and my finger is like on the second one and I just get bear hugged and drug back through the room, through the other room, back to the landing. It's like he did not want the cops to get called. He stopped his grandmom from running across the street as I was going to try to call. I guess he realized that I wasn't no longer on the landing and, he stopped that. And now I'm just in the landing and he's trying to figure out like what to do next. And he washed his hands and I'm just standing there like, bro, like I'm gonna die. Like I tell him, you have to do something. I'm gonna die. And that's when he kind of like was like, all right, I'm gonna drive you to the hospital, right? I guess that's what he came up with. So I'm like, all right, bet. I'm down the steps. I'm going through the door. His grandmom was there. She had a towel in her hand, handed it to me and I'm just like, all right. And now I have it like on like here. I didn't know exactly what happened, but I knew something and I knew to put it there. It was just so crazy how like my body and my brain just took over. And so now I'm in the car and he's driving me. And it was November. This happened 11/17/2008. So it's cold, like it was cold air. And I had the window down and just, it felt so good. Just that cold air hitting my face. And that was like keeping me awake. And he's just talking. He's like, what are we going to do? What are we going to say? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Just get me to the hospital. Like, just go, like drive, go through the lights, just go, just get me there. So he's talking. I don't know what he's saying. I'm just like, go, just go, just go. So we get to the hospital and we pull up out front. I jump out. I walk in there and the front desk lady's like, hi, do you need some help? And I'm like, hi. I was like, I just got shot. And the whole place like went crazy. Like they were like, oh my God. I could only imagine what I looked like, you know? So they put me in the chair, a wheelchair, and I was just like, I could finally breathe. I'm like, look, whatever happens from here, like I got myself here, you know, like whatever happens after this is out of my hands. And they took me back and they started like asking me questions and like cutting off my clothes. And I felt so uncomfortable, but I heard them. They're like, all she has is weed in her system. Like they couldn't believe I wasn't like on some like amp amped up drugs, you know, to get me still going. Or they couldn't believe all I had was weed, and I was just like, I'm not shot anywhere else. I'm not shot. And I had one of them like, I got real curly hair. I had like one of them hair separators, like the headbands, and that was getting stuck in my hair. Like I remember all these little details, and they couldn't get it out of my hair. And I'm like, I'm not shot anywhere else. I'm like, please just save me. And then whatever drug they gave me, the last thing I remember is them trying to get the thing out my hair, saying about the weed. The guy was there. He had came in at that point, and they were like, what happened? I remember them asking him that. He was touching my foot, and then I fell asleep. Like whatever they gave me, I was out. So then I wake up again and it's like cold air. I'm getting pushed on the tarmac or whatever to the helicopter. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Right. I can't breathe. I can't scream. The guys on the plane were like, oh, we got a heavyweight. And I was like, what? I was offended. I'm like, yo, what is going on right now? Right. I'm like, is this how I'm going to die? So that was scary. I don't know if there was a pipe, a tube, or medicine, whatever they did. I fell back to sleep. And then I was like, is that dying? I don't know. Cause then I woke up, quote unquote, again. Now I'm in the trauma. Everybody's staring at me. I'm like, I wrote down on this little thing I had, am I gonna die? They said no, but everybody was so mad at me because apparently, like, I wasn't telling them what happened. Like, I was just like, I don't know who did it. I don't know. Because I'm still stuck in this cycle of violence, you know? Like, this just made me realize there needs to be more resources and stuff for domestic violence. But that's why I led with, you know, we're far from what anybody thinks somebody who gets into this type of relationship, you know? So they were just mad at me and they were like, who did this to you? We need to know so they don't come shoot up my team and stuff like that. And I'm just like, dude, I just don't want to die, you know? And I recovered from there. I was in the hospital for 10 days. The guy did call me from jail on a three-way and, you know, was like, I'm sorry, this and that. And, you know, I made some choices that I regret to this day. Maybe not regret, but I would do different because, like I said, I was still stuck in that cycle. And yeah, I was in the hospital for 10 days. I was throwing up blood. I remember a friend of mine came. She was like, her sister had worked on the floor I was on, and she was like washing my hair with the dry blood. And I had asked somebody to take pictures of it, and the pictures, I've never seen them. I don't know if people just told me they were taking the pictures or if they did and they ended up getting erased. So I've never actually seen like what I looked like during that time. But, you know, my mom was there. They called my mom. to go, because when they called her at the hospital, she's like, "Where's my granddaughter?" They got my daughter. She was fine. Thankfully, he didn't go do anything to her. And yeah, just that 10 days in the hospital was just recovering. I lost a lot of weight. My jaw, I could only eat like soft stuff. I think they wired my jaw shut. They had to like re-break it. But like I didn't lose any teeth. If you see, like it went through like right here and came through out here. So it literally like went through my face, which is probably the best case scenario because, it didn't really hit too many things. Like, yeah, I lost my eye, but like I didn't need too much. There is some screws here, um, which look a little weird, like when I go to the dentist and stuff, but it really doesn't give me too many problems. I haven't really been in too much pain. Maybe like if the weather changes a little nerve or I do get headaches, but I kind of dealt with things like that before, like the headache. So I don't know if I necessarily want to attribute it to that incident. I think a lot of the things I've dealt with after that has been like a lot of mental things. Even still, when I talk about it, things might trigger me that I don't realize still are a trigger or just maybe something I haven't thought about in a little while. Loud sounds, like if I drop something, or fireworks aren't that bad because I like if I'm with my kids because I'm expecting it. It's more the unexpected bangs that kind of throw me off. And it's like I get real scared and I'm like, it takes a few minutes to get my breathing back, my head space back. But yeah, I mean the healing journey has just kind of been trusting in God. I did go through a little bit of an addiction to the pills. The doctor was giving me like tons of Klonopin, tons of Percocet, and I've been clean from pills 2 years now. So yeah, I'm just trying to do what I can do, and help others along the way. Uh, because to me, I'm just like I'm a regular person. Everybody has a story, but when I tell my story, people either relate to it in some way or somebody they know is in something or they've just can be sympathetic. So yeah, I try to share it when I can. And yeah, that's basically my story. I do not have a fear of death after this experience. If anything, in my relationship with God, I've really grown a relationship with God. I am more now interested in what happens because, this is like only a short time that we're here. There is something else out there. And I know I'm not a liar. And, if I heard somebody tell this story, I might take it with a grain of salt, but like I know what I went through, and it's like, and I know where I was and what I experienced, and then just hearing other people's story, I know that I'm not alone in that experience. So it kind of gives me some hope that all this that we go through is not for nothing. Like there's a purpose for it. There's a plan, even though we don't always know what the plan is. We're not God, so we don't need to know. We need to just trust. And, everything usually works out, or not usually, things work out like they're supposed to. And yeah, I don't necessarily fear death anymore. Maybe how it's gonna happen, I would hate for like my kids to find me or it to be traumatic, but that's another thing that I've kind of learned about this. Like we always think that, oh, that person, their poor death, or like whatever the situation will be, if it's tragic, if it's sad, but it was actually very peaceful. So it's like, we don't know what happens in them last minutes, like maybe for our loved ones or people we care about, it wasn't traumatic or it wasn't scary for them. So maybe that could give people some type of peace too, to know that death is not scary. It's very peaceful, actually, from my experience. I've always felt, even before this, I've always been a little bit more sensitive. I don't know. I do have a late onset of AUDHD, which is like autism, ADHD. I don't know if that plays into it at all, but I have always been kind of intuitive person. I think that this has just brought me more to the spiritual side. I don't believe like in psychics or things like that, that they're from just me personally. I think that that's like demonic. I don't think that we ever talk to like our loved ones. Um, but that's just my own experience. But I do believe that there is a spiritual side, that we are fighting spiritual forces. A lot of the things that we fight are, attack us mentally, and it gets perceived as something's wrong with us, and it's not. We just need to get more in touch with the spiritual side of things. There's way more to this life than what we see and experience. The human body is like really does not do half of what it could do. Thank you for letting me share my story.